Hi, my name is Lisa Blair. I'm an instructional designer at Grantham University, and I am your guest lecturer for this module on summative assessment. Now, summative assessments are typically thought of as exams, like the midterm and the final, but they can also be projects or research papers that you have students work on throughout the duration of the course, and this is a way for students to demonstrate their mastery of the course objectives. So let's talk a little bit about summative assessment. It's a high-stakes performance, and there's only one attempt. There's no do-overs, so it's a pretty big deal. Now, when we talked about backward design earlier in 975, we decided that we need to start with the course objectives in order to make sure that everything in our course builds on that foundation. Same thing with summative assessments. That's why we're starting now in week 1 to design these summative assessments. Our goal is to map the course objectives with the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Now, in Bloom's taxonomy, there's 6 levels of cognitive processing. So in this image, let's take a look at the different levels. Starting at the bottom, remembering, understanding, and applying, these are called the lower order thinking skills, or the LOTS. We would expect to focus on these in the 1 and 200 level courses. As we move up, we look at analyzing, evaluating, and creating. These are the HOTS, the higher order thinking skills. They require a little bit more complexity in processing concepts and ideas. We would expect to see the HOTS used in the 3 and 400 level courses at Grantham University. Now, as you continue to work with your instructional designer, you're going to hear this a lot. Let's make sure that the verbiage is appropriate for the level of Bloom's taxonomy. So that's where we go to this right-hand column. These are verbs that you would consider using for each level of Bloom's taxonomy. So you're not only going to use these verbs when you're writing exam questions, you will be using these verbs if you revise the course objectives. You will use these verbs when you're writing the discussion prompts and when you're writing the assignments for your students that they'll be doing weekly throughout the course. Assessing the assessment. Have we done it the right way? There are a couple of ways that we assess the assessments. One is the VIP squared tool, and we're going to talk about this later in GU 975, but for now you just need to know that we want to make sure we give students every opportunity to perform at their preferred level. So some students are great at writing, other students are great at speaking, some like to do creative projects or multimedia projects. So do we provide those affordances? Can they demonstrate their skills and their knowledge at these different levels? Does the exam or the project provide a real-world problem for students to solve? This goes back to the idea of andragogy, and it's really important for maintaining student engagement in the course. We also want to make sure that not only are we trying to assess what students have learned, but also what they are able to do. Skill development is just as important as integration of knowledge. The other way that we assess the assessment is through the Carnegie unit. And again, we'll talk more about this later in 975. You just need to know for now that according to the Carnegie unit, we have allocated 2 hours of in-class time in week 4 for the midterm exam and in week 8 for the final exam. Also in those weeks, we've allocated 3 hours of student preparation time. So we really want to make sure that those summative assessments are worthy of 5 hours of instructional time. How do we do that? Well, hang on to your hats. There are 2 more installments in this series of summative assessment.